What's going on, everybody? Frank from 5AM Ramen here, back in Nara for more delicious ramen. Not going as deep as last time, but relatively deep, and basically crossing off the list some of the highest ranked places here in Nara. As I've come to expect in this part of the country, ramen on the heavier side as well. And we are starting at what is the highest ranked place in all of Nara Prefecture. Expectations are high, and this is a place I've wanted to go to for a long time. Rich, foamy soup, amazing noodles and toppings. This place is meant to tick all the boxes. So, best of Nara starting now.
Welcome back to 5AM Ramen, your go-to resource for exploring the rich world of ramen in Japan. I'm Frank, your ramen host, and I'm the one guiding you through the ramen forest, one bowl at a time. Let's get started. This is the 11th and final episode in what's been our Kyoto Ramen series. It's bittersweet as we bring this series to an end. Don't forget to check out our Kyoto Ramen guidebook. I've tasted all the ramen in Kyoto and beyond, so you don't have to. You'll find a special promo code in the description below. Today, we're wrapping up this series in beautiful Nara. We're grabbing some of Nara's finest bowls today, and with some interesting weather to boot. First up, we're visiting a little place called Mitsuba. Their chicken and pork-based ramen soup is insanely addictive, and this ends up being one of my favorite bowls in the entire Kansai region. Let's hear from me on the ground.
So, the ramen at Mitsuba, the top of Nara Prefecture in terms of recognition. And that was, as expected, an amazing bowl. All of the ramen down here in Nara is amazing, but that one stood out. I can totally understand why it's at the very top of the heap. Like a lot of bowls that I've enjoyed over here and shared with you all up to now, it is richer chicken ramen with a foamy top and a syrupy soy sauce base. But even though it was heavy and rich, I don't know what it was. It still was very gentle in a way. It was so carefully constructed that it didn't feel as heavy as even perhaps some of the other bowls. And I think that's just because the high level of execution. Right? The soy sauce seasoning or shoyu seasoning that was there, it also wasn't as sweet. It did have this syrupy sort of texture to it, along with that rich chicken broth, but it was just so, how do I say? It was just so full of warm chicken flavors, like a gravy in flavor as well, but not one that was too rich and creamy. It ticked all the boxes with the soup. The noodles were super firm, excellent noodles. I didn't get them, but I saw a notice in Japanese that you can get whole wheat flour noodles as well. Maybe if I'm back here in the future, that's what I would try. Excellent pork chashu, excellent egg. Toppings were great. What can I say? It was an amazing bowl. This one stood out a lot. And on a weekday like today was nice because there was nobody in line. Just walked in. Okay, changing it up a little bit too. Our next place here in Nara is about 30 minutes from Mitsuba.
Next up is Torigachi Ippai, whose ramen couldn't be more different than what we just saw at Mitsuba. Think a much lighter soup and one that's purely chicken-based. Their ramen stands in stark contrast to the heavier bowls you often see in Nara.
Little windy today, as you might be able to tell from my hair here, but that was an excellent bowl of ramen at Torigachi Ippai. It was light, which is surprising for Nara. It's something that didn't catch me by surprise. This sort of high level of execution, chicken forward ramen with a lot of chicken oil on top is something you would see more often in Tokyo. But I like this lighter style personally. It's just something that I'm more used to, let's say. I was traveling with a friend, so had both the shoyu and shio to sample. The shoyu, or soy sauce seasoned ramen, is their top seller. But the shio, I preferred in terms of the flavor, just because I'm a shio guy. That really light salt seasoning, not that salty, making way for a wonderful warm chicken soup with, again, a lot of chicken oil. In the shoyu they're using is a little bit bold. It's got a sour and sweet flavor, I think in that order. A lot of soybeans in it, more so than wheat. At least that's what I was picking up. And it was excellent too. I just think personally, shio was my jam. Thin, weedy noodles in both of them. And among toppings, of course, what stood out were these strips of chicken. Not seasoned that much, but very, how do I say? I don't want to say rubbery, but rubbery and bouncy in texture. Very soft, but with just enough bite to them, let's say. What I found to be an X factor at this place is the staff are super friendly. The person working there and preparing the meals, super friendly. He was asking me like, where are those photos going? I showed him 5AM Ramen on Instagram, showed him the websites. So had a nice conversation despite being, quite busy and visiting when they're at their lunch peak hours. He still made it a point to talk to me. And this is something I appreciate about Kansai too. I think you get more of that than in Tokyo, where ramen staff can be a little bit more standoffish, a little bit more keeping to themselves, let's say. And I love that warmth that you get over here in Kansai. It was very nice to change things up and have a lighter ramen after all the heavy ramen I've been having on this trip. Great bowl at Torigachi Ippai. Or I should say great bowls at Torigachi Ippai.
2 more bowls coming up, and a mini snowstorm as well. We're visiting Tsukemen Musshin for Tsukemen, or dipping ramen, and Muttepou, their Kyoto main branch for ramen. So we're basically ending the series in Kyoto. I think this is just as appropriate as the fact that we're finishing up with some heavy ramen. Both these ramen shops are from the Muttepou group, who love a porky soup. Back to me on the ground.
Whoa, look at my hair. A little windy out here. The wind is wreaking havoc on my hair. Wow, this couldn't be more scenic in a Nara prefecture countryside sort of way. Perfect place to recap that bowl at Tsukemen Musshin. There were 2 choices. Their most popular is the tonkotsu tsukemen or the tonkotsu gyokai, or pork bone and fish soup one. Going here with a friend, we had one of each. I got the pork bone one, which is their signature, and it was a rich soup. It was pork bone rich, funky, a little smelly even. Quite rich for me, but I did like the toppings you could add. Much like tonkotsu ramen, you could put beni shoga, takana to really give the soup an electric charge. So I enjoyed that aspect as well. And even before adding those condiments, there was a good amount of yuzu, which was very refreshing in that rich soup, and even a little bit of sansho, or numbing pepper. On top of that, the noodles were your typical tsukemen noodles, thick, slippery, served cold with nice bite to them. In a way, remind of udon, and very fatty cubes of pork in the soup itself. And like this ramen group often does, the egg was a little bit more hard-boiled than it was soft-boiled. Personally, I prefer maybe when it's tonkotsu gyokai. I like those sharp fish flavors to contrast with that rich pork bone soup. But the pork bone soup was great, just heavy for me, especially as a third bowl. As is often a theme in Kansai, very friendly staff, and this is pretty remote here. It is a little bit of a destination ramen shop as such, but well worth it if you want to have some great tsukemen that's on the heavier side here in Nara. Oh boy, this is definitely up there in remote places I've been for ramen before. And it is cold, still snowing, and I am waiting for the bus. I was trying to catch a taxi from the ramen shop, called 2 places, no pickup. It's gonna be tough, I think, with the snow getting a taxi. So here I am, waiting for the bus, which only comes like once every hour. My route home is gonna be a little bit longer because of that, but at least I have a bus, or I hope I have a bus. Gotta keep an eye out here for that bus to come. Make sure I don't miss it. Otherwise, I'm walking back. Everyone talks about the kindness of Japanese, and yeah, maybe it's something that's overly talked about, but there's something to be said for it. The tencho, or the staff shop owner, was so kind even to like run me over to the bus stop. It's snowing outside. He was in a t-shirt, but he's like, oh, here's the bus stop, pointing it to me, just being such a nice guy. And I really appreciate that, just going out of his way. Anyways, I'm gonna keep an eye out for this bus. I'll give a full recap once I'm back at the hotel. Oh wow, let's just say I'm very happy to be inside away from the cold and snow. Normally it doesn't get this cold in this part of the country. So yeah, it kind of hit everyone by surprise, and a lot of the trains were stopped, JR lines included. I was walking back to my hotel here in Kyoto and I saw a train stop. So I'm very lucky that I actually made it back when I did, even if there were some delays with Kintetsu, the rail operator that I took back to get here. Kintetsu, reliable as always, and even though they were delayed, still got me here in one piece. Happy to say I'm safe and sound now. Everything was smooth sailing once I was on that Kintetsu train from Nara to Kyoto, but right up until that train ride, when I was outside for about half an hour, that was super cold. That bus didn't come, so I had to basically reroute and ended up taking, I think, what was the same bus, just from another bus stop. So it all worked out in the end, but yeah, I was outside for quite a bit. I was also wearing sneakers, which were horrible because they're not waterproof. Anyways, enough enough about the weather over here, and let's talk about Muttepou. Now, part of me is like, God, I went through so much just to go visit Muttepou's main branch. They have branches in other parts of Japan, including in Tokyo and Nakano. But I'm glad, again, the ramen collector in me is able to be like, I visited hallowed ground, I visited their main location. And in the end, I don't regret it because it makes for a good story, something I can laugh about years from now, especially with the snow and everything tonight. Now, the ramen itself, it's basically pork bones and water in the soup. That's it. They are not shy about being a pork bone ramen shop. You can smell the pork bones. It's smelly. It's a heavy bowl. But the shoyu or soy sauce seasoning that props up that pork bone soup is still prominent. It's salty. Maybe not as salty as you get in some ieke or Yokohama style bowls, which are tonkotsu shoyu. This was more tonkotsu shoyu in a more of a softer voice, not a whisper. But let's just say the shoyu was still there. Fatty pork slices, negi. I got the regular amount of negi, and I got more firm noodles, which is what I've recently been doing with this style over here in Kansai. In terms of the soup strength or richness, I went right in the middle too. Don't regret my decision. It was still rich. But yeah, a tasty bowl, and maybe even tastier because of that weather outside. Quite an ordeal to get there and quite an ordeal to get back. But yeah, it's those memories surrounding the bowls that maybe really make it more of an experience. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this Nara/Kyoto video. We closed out Nara in a big way, visiting all of the top ranked ramen restaurants. I got a bath running. I can't wait to jump in. And before I do that, just want to say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, I'm gonna dive straight in there right now. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.
Thanks so much everyone for watching this video and for following this Kyoto Ramen series. It's been an intense, noodle-filled journey down here in Kansai, and I hope that you've enjoyed being along for the ride. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and thanks again. Until next time.